Guatemala, the drug war rages on as deadly cartels from neighbouring Mexico set their sights on parts of the country. But many of Guatemala's youth are fighting back, not through violence, but by making their voices heard. Can it make a difference? It's a country under siege, Guatemala. Widespread violence and drug trafficking have paralysed large parts of the country, threatening the safety of its citizens. In the north of the country, in Alta Verapaz, the Mexican drug cartel Los Zeta has firmly taken control. And on December the 19th, 2010, Guatemala's then-President Álvaro Colom took the extraordinary measure of calling an emergency state of siege in the region, suspending constitutional rights and purging the region's entire police force.
We will maintain a strong presence until we have complete control in the region.
The nation's army was also deployed to Alta Verapaz for the first time since the country's nearly 4-decade-long civil war ended 15 years ago. Just what can be done to help regain stability here and give the people back control over their own future?
Look, I can't change the past, but from now on, I know I don't want to do those bad things. That means something, but it doesn't mean you can erase the past.
The story of this young man who asked we hide his identity for his own protection is a story of violence and criminal activity, an all-too-common tale of danger that sheds light on many of the challenges facing this small Central American country.
If a young woman wants to study, she doesn't get the opportunity. This is a source of violence that we face because we are not being educated like we should.
This young woman's story will also provide insight into the cycle of violence and powerlessness that has shaped Alta Verapaz. And while the experiences of these two may be different, their stories of struggle and ultimately of courage and leadership are similar and may be vital to their country's future.
I'm sorry that this interview has to be anonymous, but I am scared they kill me.
Juan, not his real name, is 19 years old, the average age of Guatemala's 14 million people. Like a majority of Guatemalans, Juan grew up in extreme poverty. When he was just 14 years old, his alcoholic father kicked him out of the house.
The street was my home. In the street, I'd smoke with my friends. Hey, what's up? How you been? That's when I was introduced to substances. Cocaine. And I smoked way too much marijuana. We hung out and we were supposedly friends, but I didn't know they were using me.
Those friends are part of an international drug trade that move an estimated 250 to 350 tons of cocaine yearly through Central America on the way to North American and European countries. With their enormous resources, the Los Zeta cartel has had little difficulty recruiting local youth like Juan, desperate to make a living.
They knew I was really violent. Other young people were scared of me. So, if I was with them, nobody would try anything because I was there.
Juan became a foot soldier in the army of drug smugglers that roamed openly throughout the region.
Abductions were taking place, extortions were happening on a daily basis, and drug trafficking activity was really strong.
Edwin Daniel Monterosa is a colonel in the Guatemalan army in Alta Verapaz.
People didn't feel safe because armed men were on the move.
Many here in Alta Verapaz fell victim to the crimes. Others, like Juan, were lured into illegal activity, while the majority of people here, with little education, little knowledge of their rights, and next to no say in their government, felt powerless.
In my family, nobody has ever earned a high school degree. They're farmers and really don't think much beyond their farm.
Few in Guatemala pass primary school, and young women like 20-year-old Maida Arceli Kawek face particularly difficult challenges getting ahead. Jorge Kawek, Maida's father, expects her to work at home.
She's my right hand. That is, she's always helping me out. When she does, there's no need to pay someone else.
But Maida is longing to do much more than work on the farm. She wants to change her community for the better.
My problem is that I like to help others. That's why I want to continue studying. I feel that change within myself, and it can impact my country, which is in such a bad place.
The government has managed to gain back some control of the region where she lives, Alta Verapaz, 1 month after calling the state of siege, during which it seized military-grade arms, explosives, vehicles, airplanes and drugs. But many believe that the current calm won't last. And those who would be most affected by the violence are often the most vulnerable, fears Mariano Gonzalez, a researcher at the Archbishop's Office on Human Rights in Guatemala City.
Most of those killed are youth, and a majority of the aggressors are also youth. So what we have are youth at the root of the problem of violence, both as victims and perpetrators. And this is causing a tragic phenomenon.
15 to 20 homicides are committed daily in Guatemala, a statistic that rivals the daily death counts during the Civil War that killed more than 200,000 people. Of the current homicides, an alarming percentage of the victims are under 25 years old.
In the absence of any real public policy for youth, what we are seeing is something very serious. If you don't include youth, you're condemning your country to failure.
Alberta Brunori is the representative in Guatemala for the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Youth aren't seen, just not seen. They practically don't exist. No one takes them into consideration, except maybe during political campaigns to win votes. But nobody's creating public policies that involves or inspires them.
Mr. President, you can overthrow me.
And that's why this group, the Association of Friends of Development and Peace, ADP, was created. It's an innovative education program that trains and certifies young leaders in development and democracy studies. It's an initiative made possible by the United Nations Democracy Fund, UNDEF, which finances and oversees the project.
What do we understand by democracy? Participation. We are a society made, directed, and educated to obey, not think.
Roberto Alvarado is ADP's director. He believes that empowering the youth to have a voice in their own future is a crucial weapon in the war against violence.
We train future political leaders. We cannot allow the youth to just vote without analyzing the reason why they cast that vote. They are not just preparing for exams, but for real life.
With UNDEF's support, the ADP program trains more than 500 young people to be local community leaders by offering them year-long scholarships to learn development and life skills. Once they graduate, they're ready to head back into their communities to help educate others on their rights, the nation's laws, and participating in the democratic process. And leading the way was one girl who longed to make a difference, Maida.
I told my mother I was coming here, but not my father.
Maida decided not to tell her father that she had won and accepted an ADP scholarship to participate in the training. But when local press covered the inauguration of her program, it didn't take long for him to find out.
That day my father came home around 3 in the afternoon and was so furious that I wasn't there, he took it out on my brothers and beat all of them.
In spite of her father's disapproval, Maida was determined and continued in the program. And alongside her was someone many had already written off, Juan. After 4 years on the streets, Juan's siblings intervened and convinced him to go back to school and apply to ADP.
The first time we spoke, I felt intimidated, but over time, my perception about him changed.
Juan says it was trainers like Natalie Parque who helped him gain a voice.
During the first week, we studied about self-esteem and how to live with other people in a calm, democratic way.
He loves to participate. He's very mature, expresses his points of view and likes to communicate. He can get the group going, which shows leadership.
We don't introduce in any way some sort of political or ideological beliefs. What we're trying to do is engage youth to make their own analysis and come up with their own decision.
Maida graduated and was certified as an ADP leader and was even awarded a second scholarship, earning a high school degree in development and democracy studies. And Juan quickly learned that his value was much more than that of a soldier in a drug cartel, but that he could affect change in ways he never imagined.
We're beginning to apply what we know about democracy and peace, and we are making a change.
While achieving true security in their country and having a real say in their future may take years, Juan and Maida and so many other young people in leadership roles are working hard, laying the foundation now for that change to happen.